Hello friend and welcome back. Today we are talking about more of an ingredient than an actual product, but I'm so excited about it. So any of you with dark spots or melasma, stay tuned. We are talking about Thiamidol today. When you're on a stubborn pigmentation or melasma journey, you know that it is pretty rare to see a single ingredient come out that is a total game changer. Usually, when a product works really well for you, it's a new combination or higher strengths, or it just is something that reduces the irritation so that it works better with your skin. But rarely is it, oh my goodness, this is a new extract and it blows everything else out of the water, because pigmentation is just stubborn. It takes a lot of different pathways to make pigmentation happen, and it's hard to do. So if you've watched this channel for any length of time, or if you've tried anti-pigmentation products, you know that you look for a nice long list of time-tested, proven, well-researched ingredients that you know are going to help in the long run, and then you use that as frequently as your routine allows. So maybe it's twice a day and it's a couple of different serums that have kojic acid and alpha-arbutin and licorice root extract and vitamin C and anti-irritants and antioxidants, and then you cover it all with a really great sunscreen. And for a lot of people, a routine like that works. If you have stubborn melasma, or if you have just stubborn pigmentation or very sensitive skin, you find yourself often having to look for other answers or just jumping from different product to different product. This is not an ad. I've not been paid or compensated or gifted any of this. I just happened to stumble upon this magic little bottle of Eucerin Anti-Pigment. It is just an anti-pigment serum that I found while I was visiting Paris. Since then, I fell down a little rabbit hole and have found out about Thiamidol. Thiamidol is an ingredient that is patented by Beiersdorf, Germany, which is the company that runs Eucerin and Nivea. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different products. I have these two and lots of these just because I stocked up when I saw how fast it worked. Nivea, the one that I have is the Luminous 630 Anti-Spot Post-Acne Serum. Now, this one has a little bit of salicylic acid in it, among other things, but fairly simple formula as far as actives. I didn't live for this one. It is a light green serum, and it feels very much like a traditional serum. It has fragrance, and it has a lot of denatured alcohol. Now, you will find that is true with all the products that we talk about today, because for some reason Thiamidol must need a little help with penetration enhancement from just straight denatured alcohol. The scent is fine. It smells like a fragranced cosmetic product to me. It's been a long time since I used one that's just, drugstore level, which both of these brands are, at least in the EU. It leaves a little bit of stickiness, and I found out real fast. I thought I was going to hate this, and that's why I wound up getting these. This one does leave a little bit of tack and a little bit of film, so one full pump is plenty for my whole face, down through the beard line and even onto the neck a little bit. And then I let it set, because if I layer it too much, if I get one area that gets a little bit too much of it, or I'm too fast with my other serums, it absolutely pills up. I found the same with this, but it's significantly less annoying to work with. This one is the Eucerin Anti-Pigment Serum, and I'm running low on my first bottle, but here we go. This one is a white, slightly luminous serum, a lot lighter texture to it, which is nice as far as spreadability goes. Still fragranced, still has denatured alcohol in it, no salicylic acid for this one. I wasn't super impressed by any of the other ingredients. It really, for me, is just another opportunity to get Thiamidol in. There are the two finishes. They both finish just fine. They don't add much of a radiant finish or a matte finish. They are really just meant to be serums that work into the skin. This one is a little bit more floral, a little bit sweeter scent to it. This one smells a little bit more medicinal, I suppose. But both of them, the fragrance dissipates pretty quickly. Obviously, I would rather have no fragrance and no denatured alcohol, but being that it is very hard to get these anyways, I will put up with it. Obviously, I would prefer to have no fragrance and no denatured alcohol, but when we talk about how fast this works and how well this ingredient has worked on my skin for my stubborn melasma, it's worth it to me. Once they dry down, I suppose the Eucerin Anti-Pigment Serum has a little bit more of a moisturized finish, not dewy by any means, but just like more comfortably moisturized. And the Anti-Acne, the Nivea one, definitely has a dry, sort of uncomfortable finish to it, but obviously you're layering this with other stuff. So it is not meant to be standalone products. There are other ones. There's a dual serum that has more of a moisturizing base into it. People online have said that that one pills like nobody's business, so I wasn't going to try that. There is also an SPF 30, and I think there's a 50 as well, that includes some thiamidol. I haven't tried that one, but that's another option. It's just a lower percentage, and I wanted to try the highest strength stuff that I could find to see what I could get out of it. Now, while I was traveling, I definitely tried to pare down my routine, so a little bit more streamlined products, but I was definitely still focusing on my anti-pigmentation stuff. That was where I really brought most of my serums, but this was a game changer. I saw results so quickly that I had to go online and figure out if I was just losing my mind or if it was the water in Paris that was so wonderful or the wine that was fixing my skin. But it turned out that so many people are having these like mind-blowing results from Thiamidol, especially those of us with a little more melanin to our skin where pigmentation tends to be more of a problem. Okay, so Thiamidol is the trade name. The chemical name is isobutyl amidothiazoyl resorcinol. Now, resorcinol is something that is known pretty well to the anti-pigment community. It's a phenol compound. It's usually used in percentages less than 2% in cosmetics. It's antibacterial. It's got a tyrosinase inhibiting effect to it. It's anti-inflammatory, which is great for my kind of pigmentation because a lot of it comes from like irritation and redness underneath. Thiamidol works as a competitive tyrosinase inhibitor. It is just a very effective molecule at very small concentrations. I dug through some of the studies, and there aren't many, but most of them are from the actual manufacturer or have Beiersdorf people involved in it, so you have to take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. That said, it was very interesting to me because a lot of tyrosinase inhibition studies start or at least involve mushrooms in some way. Hydroquinone also owes some of its origin story to mushroom studies because of how they use it to parallel tyrosinase inhibition and melanin inhibition in humans. Mushroom studies help give us an idea of how that works. Now, we know that mushrooms aren't people and they aren't skin, but they offer some insight into that. The interesting thing is Thiamidol actually didn't do very well in mushroom studies, but it did really well in human studies. Versus hydroquinone did really well in mushroom studies, but only did moderately well when you compare them to how strong the inhibition effect was in mushroom studies versus human skin studies. We're going to get nerdy for a second here. One of the measures that they use to see how well something works for pigment is they look at the inhibitory concentration. And in this case, they were looking at a 50% IC, so IC50, which is how high a concentration of that active it takes to inhibit pigmentation in 50% of their studied population. So kojic acid was at least 500 millimoles per liter. That's the concentration that we're looking at, 500, to get 50% IC. Now, hydroquinone, much stronger, 16.3 millimoles per liter. So much smaller concentration required versus kojic acid to get the inhibitory effect that they're looking for. But last but not least, thiamidol in this study was a 0.9 millimole per liter concentration. So it's like tiny little droplets to get this effect in 50% of their target, yeah, so when we compare it to kojic acid, which is 500, hydroquinone was 16.3, and then, yeah, thiamidol came in at the top. This was a Beiersdorf supported study, so take it with a grain of salt, but when you compare them head to head, it's very nice to see that all you need is a tiny little bit of concentration to get this huge effect in real human skin versus the mushroom studies where it was sort of flip-flopped, that thiamidol did really poorly and hydroquinone did amazingly. So back to my real world experience, I got this probably 4 or 5 days into my trip in Europe. I was there for less than 2 weeks, and about a week later, I was noticing how much effect I had seen, that my melasma was truly looking brighter. Again, at the time, I was like, okay, maybe this is just like I'm living my best life out here. I'm with my partner, we got engaged. Drinking wonderful wine, having wonderful food, walking all the time, just living my best European life. So I didn't know how much of that I was seeing versus how much was just this new product I was trying and how much I wanted it to work. But people online, like Reddit forums, melasma forums, people are going crazy over this, that it is the only thing that has worked for them or the first thing that has changed so quickly. It is mildly anti-inflammatory, which is great. It is reversible, which is bittersweet, which means that it's not causing any permanent structural changes to your melanocytes like hydroquinone can, but that means that you have to keep using it to see that effect. The manufacturers recommend that you use it 4 times a day, which is tricky. I know I have a difficult time with it. Maybe it's easier if you get the sunscreen so that you can reapply your sunscreen or a tinted sunscreen and get a little bit more boost of that. But it tells me that probably this has a short half-life, so it's only working for a little bit to do its inhibition process. I have tried reapplying. The best I can really get is about 3 times a day. But I can reapply this as long as I don't have a super done up look. I don't have a lot of makeup on, just a tinted sunscreen. I put a tiny little extra layer of this over and then put my sunscreen back on top of it in the middle of the day if I'm feeling really ambitious. Otherwise, I have only been using it twice a day and seen magnificent results. I do want to be realistic, and I have been using a pretty nice dialed in routine recently. I'm also trying out Hue, the Super Fade, which is awesome and gets great reviews as well. But this was the biggest difference because I was using stuff that I've always used while I was in Europe and then saw this massive change just from using this for about a week. If you have the most stubborn melasma, definitely recommend trying to do this 4 times a day because that seems to unlock some greater potential and really, really depigment faster and more thoroughly. If you want to see some amazing before and afters, look at the Reddit melasma forum. Each of the products, there are serums, there are dual serums, there's sunscreen, I believe there's a moisturizer. Each of them is going to have a different concentration of thiamidol in it, but they don't disclose the actual concentrations. They just acknowledge that that's a variation. So they want you to stack all the different products throughout the day. Obviously, they're a business. They want you to buy all the things. What I will say is this is what I've had the best luck with, just as far as usability. It blends nicely with most of my other serums. If you use too much of it, it's still going to pill, but that seems like a common problem for all of the products within both of these lines, that if you overlayer it, it's going to pill up. They are thicker serums than I'm used to, so something to keep in mind, but it is game changing. They run about $35 to $45. Obviously the conversion is always going to be a little bit different. It depends on where you get it because you can only get these from like secondhand retailers, or if you're shopping in the EU. If you are in the EU, you're very lucky. Enjoy it. It is wonderful stuff, and it has been so gentle, so effective on my skin. I can't recommend it enough, and I was tired of keeping it to myself. I hope if you're struggling with melasma or stubborn pigmentation that you at least look into this because it could be the thing that tips the scale in your favor. With that, I believe I'm doing a follow-up video just on my current melasma stack in my routine because I think I've got it dialed in pretty good, something that's working really nicely for me. Obviously, thiamidol is a big piece of that, but there are some supporting ingredients that have been game-changing as well. I will share those, and yeah, be well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.